The contested belt was a graveyard of ancient conflicts. Thousands of asteroids drifted in chaotic orbits, mixed with debris from battles fought long before humans reached the stars. It was the perfect location for war games, offering obstacles, cover, and plenty of room for maneuvering. Commander Hana watched the sensor displays as the Indomitable entered the designated combat zone. 43 observation vessels hung at a safe distance, representing species from across the Federation. Everyone wanted to watch the primitive humans get crushed by Quarian superiority. Fleet Admiral Velthar's battle group waited on the far side of the belt. 6 vessels, each one a masterpiece of alien engineering. His flagship alone was larger than most species' entire fleets. The ships moved in perfect formation, their crystalline hulls catching and reflecting light in impossible ways. Sensor analysis complete, Lieutenant Minji reported. Quarian flagship massing 800,000 tons. 5 escort cruisers, each approximately 200,000 tons. Total enemy mass just under 2 million tons. Half our mass, Captain Doyen noted. But they have 6 independent vessels to our 1. Multiple firing angles, Hana agreed. They can surround us. The communication channel crackled to life. Velthar's face appeared on the main screen, his skin shifting through colors that human eyes found slightly nauseating. Commander Hana, I trust you are ready to begin? Ready, Fleet Admiral. Excellent. The rules are simple. Sensors will track all simulated damage. Any system registering as destroyed will be shut down immediately by your ship's computer. Any vessel taking critical damage will withdraw from the engagement. The war games run for 72 hours or until one side is eliminated. He smiled. I expect this will take considerably less than 72 hours. A neutral arbiter, a glowing sphere representing the Luminary Collective, spoke with Thex's chiming voice. All vessels confirm engagement protocols are active. Simulation systems online. The war games will begin in 60 seconds. Hana settled into her command chair. Around her, the bridge crew prepared for battle. This was nothing like the exposition. This was what they had trained for. All hands, battle stations. Seal all compartments. Activate damage control teams. Weapons free on my command. The countdown reached 0. Velthar struck immediately. His 6 ships split into 2 groups, moving with incredible speed to flank the Indomitable. Brilliant lances of simulated plasma fire crossed the space between them. The sensors screamed warnings as dozens of shots slammed into the human ship's hull. Armor sections 12 through 18 showing critical damage, Minji reported, her voice steady despite the stress. Forward shield generators offline. Main sensor array damaged. Secondary targeting computer destroyed. Return fire, Hana ordered calmly. The Indomitable's railguns thundered silently in the vacuum. Massive projectiles, each one weighing several tons, accelerated to a fraction of light speed. They were primitive weapons, just chunks of metal thrown very fast, but they hit with devastating force. 3 shots struck Velthar's flagship. The energy shields absorbed most of the impact, but the sensors registered significant damage. The Quarian vessel peeled away, its perfect formation disrupted. They weren't expecting us to hurt them, Doyen said with grim satisfaction. The battle intensified. The Quarian ships were faster, more maneuverable, and their weapons recharged quickly. The Indomitable took hit after hit. Entire sections of the ship registered as destroyed. Life support failed in 3 compartments. The main reactor showed critical damage. Aboard the observation vessels, the alien spectators watched with various forms of satisfaction. The humans were being destroyed exactly as predicted, but the Indomitable kept fighting. Main reactor offline. The chief engineer's voice came through the comm. Switching to secondary reactor. Power restored in 30 seconds. Port missile batteries destroyed. Switching to starboard batteries. Hull breach in Section 22. Damage control team responding. Section sealed. Every report of damage was followed immediately by a report of adaptation. Systems failed, backups activated. Compartments were sealed, alternatives found. The crew moved through their emergency procedures with practiced efficiency. Hana watched the tactical display. The Quarian ships were still fresh, their exotic systems operating at full capacity. The Indomitable looked like a floating wreck according to the sensors, but it was still shooting, still maneuvering, still fighting. Time elapsed 4 hours, Minji announced. Something changed in the Quarian formation. Their movements became slightly less precise. One of the escort cruisers fell back, its weapons going silent. Enemy Vessel 2 showing reduced power output. Doyen reported. Their reactor is overheating. Dr. Somian's predictions were coming true. The Quarian ships had been designed for quick, decisive battles. 4 hours of continuous combat was pushing them beyond their operational parameters. Velthar seemed to realize this. His tactics shifted, becoming more aggressive. He was trying to finish the battle before his technological advantages eroded completely. The Indomitable's crew worked frantically to keep their ship functional. In the engine room, Ensign Tajan and his team physically rerouted power cables around damaged sections. It was dangerous work, but it kept the weapons firing. In the weapons bay, gunners switched to manual targeting when the computer systems were overwhelmed. Their shots weren't as accurate, but they were still shooting while Quarian weapons overheated and went offline for cooling cycles. Aboard Thex's observation vessel, the Luminary was transmitting constant updates to the collective. Fascinating. The human vessel has sustained damage that would have destroyed any comparable ship, yet it remains combat effective. Their redundancy systems are operating exactly as designed. Another Luminary responded with curiosity. But surely the Quarian technology is superior. Superior for brief engagements, yes. But observe, the human ship expects to be damaged. Every system has multiple backups. The crew is trained to work around failures. They are not trying to avoid damage. They are trying to outlast it. 8 hours into the battle, 2 Quarian escort cruisers withdrew. Their exotic reactors had degraded to dangerous levels. Attempting to continue would risk actual damage to the vessels. Belthar's face appeared on the comm again. He no longer looked amused. You should surrender, Commander Hana. Your ship is barely functional. Hana looked at the damage reports. He wasn't wrong. According to the sensors, 70% of their systems were offline or severely damaged. The Indomitable should have been a floating tomb, but the crew was still working. The guns were still firing. The reactors, primitive fusion cores that any advanced species would have discarded millennia ago, were still producing power. We're still here, Fleet Admiral, Hana replied simply. That means we're still fighting. 12 hours in, the Indomitable maneuvered through a dense cluster of asteroids. The Quarian ships followed, but their movements were sluggish now. Power levels were dropping across their formation. Minji lined up a shot manually, her hands steady on the targeting controls. The railgun fired. The projectile, nothing more than a depleted uranium rod, crossed the distance in seconds and struck a Quarian cruiser that had dropped its shields to conserve power. The simulated damage was catastrophic. The cruiser's exotic systems cascaded into failure. It withdrew from the battle. 3 Quarian ships remained, including Velthar's flagship. The Indomitable was held together by emergency welds, backup systems, and sheer human stubbornness. But it was still fighting. Time elapsed 16 hours, someone announced. They still had 56 hours to go. Hana allowed herself a small smile. The Quarians were learning what primitive really meant. It meant still being there when the perfect technology failed. 24 hours into the war games, Fleet Admiral Velthar made his first serious mistake. He was exhausted. His crew was exhausted. The Quarian ships, designed for brief and elegant combat, were failing in ways their creators had never anticipated. Commander Hana saw the error immediately on her tactical display. Velthar had overextended his flagship, pushing too far into the asteroid field in an attempt to finish the Indomitable with one decisive strike. His 2 remaining escort cruisers were too far away to provide immediate support. Captain Doyen, Hana said quietly, do you see it? I see it. Doyen's fingers flew across his console. He's isolated himself. If we can get between him and his escorts, we can focus all our firepower on the flagship. Minji, can you plot an intercept course? Lieutenant Minji studied her displays. Half her navigation systems were offline, but she had trained for this. Yes, Commander. But we'll have to use manual thrusters. The main engines are down for cooling. Do it. The Indomitable lurched forward on chemical thrusters, systems that the Quarians had mocked as antiquated. The ship maneuvered like a wounded animal, slow and ungainly, but it moved with purpose. The massive vessel positioned itself between Velthar's flagship and his escorts. Velthar realized his mistake too late. He tried to withdraw, but his ship's exotic drive systems needed time to recalibrate after hours of continuous operation. The Indomitable, running on simple fusion drives and chemical propellants, had no such limitation. All weapons concentrate fire on the flagship, Hana ordered. Every functional railgun on the Indomitable opened fire. The projectiles were nothing special, just metal accelerated to tremendous speeds. No exotic particles, no dimensional manipulation, no quantum effects. Just kinetic energy delivered with brutal efficiency. The Quarian flagship's shields flared as they absorbed the impacts. But shields required power, and after a full day of combat, power was exactly what Velthar's ship lacked. The shields flickered and died. Railgun rounds slammed into the crystalline hull. The exotic material that could phase through solid matter proved surprisingly fragile when hit with simple kinetic force. Cracks spread across the flagship's surface. Inside the Indomitable, Ensign Tajan was leading a damage control team through a section that had been depressurized 6 hours earlier. They were manually rerouting power to the port weapons batteries. It was dangerous work, done in vacuum suits with only emergency lighting. Connection established, Tajan reported, his voice crackling over the comm. Port batteries have power. More railguns came online. The Indomitable, which should have been destroyed hours ago, was bringing more weapons to bear on Velthar's flagship. The Quarian admiral tried something desperate. His ship carried an experimental weapon, something he had kept in reserve for a dramatic finish. It was a singularity projector, capable of creating a miniature black hole that would tear apart anything in its path. The weapon powered up, drawing energy from the flagship's already overtaxed reactor. Aboard the observation vessels, the alien spectators watched with anticipation. This would be the end of the primitive human ship. But Chief Engineer Jiwan had been monitoring the Quarian power signatures carefully. He saw the massive energy spike and understood what it meant. Commander, their flagship is charging something big. Power draw off the scale. Can we target their weapon? Already on it. Jiwan transmitted firing coordinates to the weapon stations. Minji, those are your targets. Hit them now. Lieutenant Minji, working with a damaged targeting computer and manual controls, lined up the shots. She fired 3 railgun rounds in rapid succession. All 3 struck the flagship's weapon housing. The singularity projector was a marvel of exotic physics. It was also incredibly delicate. The kinetic impacts disrupted the careful balance of forces needed to create a controlled black hole. Instead of projecting outward, the singularity formed inside the weapon itself. Velthar's flagship tore itself apart. The damage was simulated, but the sensors showed total systems failure. The great Quarian vessel, pride of their fleet, registered as destroyed. The automated systems forced it to withdraw from the battle. Silence filled the communication channels. The remaining 2 Quarian escorts halted their advance, seemingly unsure what to do without their flagship to lead them. Aboard Thex's observation vessel, the Luminary transmitted rapid-fire updates to the collective. The human vessel has destroyed the Quarian flagship, not through superior technology but through superior endurance. They simply outlasted the enemy. How is their vessel still functional? Another Luminary asked. Our sensors show catastrophic damage across all systems. That is what makes them dangerous, Thex chimed thoughtfully. They built a ship that becomes more effective as it is damaged. Every time a primary system fails, the crew adapts. Every time we think they are finished, they activate another backup. It is like fighting an opponent who grows stronger with each wound. The Quarian escorts attempted one final coordinated attack, but their movements were sluggish. Power levels were critical across both vessels. Their weapons overheated after a few shots. Their shields flickered on and off. The Indomitable responded with steady, methodical fire. Not elegant, not impressive. Just reliable railguns firing metal projectiles over and over again. Captain Doyen coordinated the defense from his station, rerouting power through systems that shouldn't have been functional. Port shields are down, compensating with starboard generators, life support failing in sections 15 through 20, sealing those compartments, main computer offline, switching to backup number 3. Every report sounded like a disaster, but every disaster had a solution. Dr. Summon, monitoring the engagement from the observation deck, was frantically taking notes. This is revolutionizing everything we thought we knew about sustained combat. The Quarian technology is superior in every measurable way, but it cannot sustain prolonged engagement. One of the Quarian escorts suffered a reactor failure, not simulated actual failure. The exotic matter that powered their drives broke down under stress it was never designed to handle. The vessel went dark and had to be towed out by an emergency response team. The final Quarian escort withdrew voluntarily. Its captain made the wise decision that continuing was pointless. The war games had reached the 30-hour mark. They still had 42 hours remaining, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The Indomitable hung in space, a battered wreck according to every sensor reading. Sections of hull were missing. Entire decks were vented to space. Primary systems were destroyed. The beautiful crystalline ships that had mocked it were gone, defeated not by superior technology but by simple endurance. Hana addressed her crew over the ship-wide comm. All stations begin damage assessment and repair procedures. Medical teams report casualties, she paused. And well done, all of you. You showed them what humans can do. The response was immediate. Despite exhaustion, despite injuries, despite systems failures all around them, the crew cheered. Outside, the observation vessels began broadcasting their reports. News of the human victory spread across the galaxy with stunning speed. The primitive species that everyone had mocked had defeated one of the most advanced fleets in the Federation. In his damaged flagship, now being towed to safety, Fleet Admiral Velthar stared at the remains of the battle. He had lost. Not because the humans had better technology, not because they were stronger or faster or smarter. They had won because they simply refused to stop fighting. Thex transmitted a final observation to the Luminari Collective. We have much to learn from these humans. They approach warfare not as a test of technological superiority, but as a test of survival. And at survival, they are masters. The Galactic Council chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from every member species crowded into the ancient hall, a structure built by civilizations long extinct. Commander Hana had never seen so many different forms of life gathered in one place. They had all come to witness what would happen next. 3 days had passed since the war games. The Indomitable sat in dock at the council station, still undergoing repairs. The damage had been extensive, but Chief Engineer Jiwan had estimated they would be fully operational within 2 weeks. The crew worked around the clock, proud of what they had accomplished. The council session began with a review of the war games. Holographic displays showed the entire battle from multiple angles. The alien delegates watched in silence as the human supercarrier endured punishment that should have destroyed it 10 times over, yet continued fighting hour after hour. High Counselor Meridax, an ancient being whose species had been founding members of the Federation, spoke first. In 5,000 years of recorded galactic history, we have never witnessed such a display. The human vessel sustained damage equivalent to total destruction, yet remained combat effective for over 30 hours of continuous engagement. Fleet Admiral Velthar stood to address the council. He looked different than he had at the exposition. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that might have been respect. High Counselor, I formally apologize to the human delegation. I underestimated their capabilities and insulted their honor. My defeat was absolute and deserved. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. For a Quarian admiral to admit defeat so publicly was unprecedented. Ambassador Kyung rose to respond. The Quarian Empire has always been a valued ally of the Federation. We hope this incident strengthens our mutual understanding rather than damages it. It has given us much to consider, Velthar said quietly. We built our ships to be perfect. The humans built their ship to survive imperfection. In doing so, they revealed a fundamental flaw in our military doctrine. High Counselor Meridax gestured to Hana. Commander, the Council would hear from you directly. How did your vessel achieve what our analysts deemed impossible? Hana stepped forward. She had prepared no speech, no grand statement. She simply told the truth. We come from a world called Earth. For millions of years our planet tried to kill us. Ice ages froze our ancestors. Droughts starved them. Predators hunted them. Diseases swept through their populations. The planet itself shook and erupted and flooded. Our evolution was not a story of becoming stronger or faster or smarter than the dangers we faced. She paused, looking around the chamber. We survived because we learned to adapt when things went wrong. We learned to make tools that would keep working even when damaged. We learned to prepare for disasters before they happened. We learned that perfection is impossible, but persistence is achievable. When we built the Indomitable, we did not try to match your advanced technologies. We built what we could build ourselves, using principles we understood completely. We gave every critical system 3 backups. We trained our crew to operate without computers. We designed the ship to absorb damage rather than avoid it, not because we wanted to be primitive, but because we knew that in real combat, things break. Dr. Soman stood and approached the council floor. If I may, High Counselor, I have been analyzing the engagement data. The results are fascinating. Proceed, Doctor. Soman activated her own holographic display. The Quarian vessels are technological marvels. Their energy efficiency is 98%. Their weapons are 3 times more powerful than equivalent human systems. Their shields can absorb tremendous damage. By every metric we typically use to measure military capability, they are superior. But there is one metric we rarely consider: operational time under combat conditions. The Quarian flagship could operate at full capacity for approximately 2 hours before systems began degrading. After 6 hours, it was at 40% effectiveness. After 12 hours, under 20%. The Indomitable, by contrast, was at 85% effectiveness after 6 hours, 70% after 12 hours, 60% after 24 hours. The human ship degrades linearly and predictably. The Quarian ships degrade exponentially as exotic systems fail. Thex, the Luminary Observer, chimed in from their delegation. The humans have weaponized reliability. While we pursued perfection, they pursued persistence. The result is a vessel that becomes proportionally more dangerous the longer combat continues. The implications spread through the council like ripples in water. Species began whispering among themselves. Military advisors frantically checked their own fleet capabilities against this new understanding. High Counselor Meridax spoke again. This changes much. We have spent millennia pursuing technological advancement without considering operational sustainability. Commander Hana, would humanity be willing to share their design philosophy with the Federation? Before Hana could respond, Ambassador Kyung stepped forward. The Galactic Federation has given humanity much since we joined. Access to trade routes, diplomatic recognition, scientific knowledge. We would be honored to contribute what we can to the collective defense of all member species. Over the following days, a remarkable transformation occurred. Species that had mocked the Indomitable now requested tours of the vessel. Engineers from dozens of different civilizations walked through the battle-scarred corridors, studying the redundant systems and backup protocols. Captain Doyen led many of these tours personally. This is a power junction, he explained to a group of Vex technicians. It can reroute energy from any reactor to any system on the ship. If the primary route is destroyed, it automatically switches to secondary pathways. If those fail, crew members can manually connect cables to bypass the junction entirely. One Vex engineer examined the junction closely. It is so inefficient. All these extra connections and switches add mass and complexity. They do, Doyen agreed. But when the main computer is destroyed and half your power grid is offline, this inefficient system keeps your weapons firing. Lieutenant Minji found herself teaching a class on manual targeting to young officers from various species. Most of you have never fired a weapon without computer assistance, she began. Your ships assume the computers will always work. Ours assume they won't. She demonstrated the manual targeting system. It's slower, it's less accurate, but it works when nothing else does. In the war games, I made 17 hits using manual targeting after all our computers were destroyed. Those 17 hits disabled 2 Quarian vessels. Chief Engineer Jiwan and Dr. Soman were invited to present at the Federation Military Academy. Their lecture on sustainable combat engineering was attended by over 3,000 officers and engineers. They had expected perhaps 50 attendees. Jiwan began the presentation simply. Stop building ships that never fail. Start building ships that keep fighting after they fail. The concept was revolutionary to species that had spent millennia perfecting their technologies. But the data from the war games was undeniable. Human redundancy had defeated Quarian perfection. Within weeks, multiple species began redesigning their military vessels. not abandoning their advanced technologies but adding human-style backup systems and redundancy protocols. The Luminari Collective requested permission to study human damage control procedures. The Vex asked for training in manual operations. Even the Quarian Empire, after some initial resistance, sent engineers to learn from the humans. Velthar himself visited the Indomitable one final time before it departed. "I have been an admiral for 40 years, he told Hana privately. "I have commanded fleets in a dozen campaigns. I thought I understood warfare. You showed me I understood only one type of warfare, the brief, decisive engagement. But real wars are not decided in microseconds. Real wars are won by whoever is still fighting when everyone else has quit," Hana replied. Velthar's skin shifted to colors that human databases identified as respectful acknowledgement. "The Quarian Empire is redesigning its entire fleet based on your principles. It will take years, but we will be better for it. Stronger, more resilient. That makes the galaxy safer for everyone," Hana said. "That is worth more than any military victory." On the day the Indomitable departed the Council Station, Ensign Tajin found Commander Hana on the observation deck. The young man had been promoted to lieutenant for his actions during the war games. "Commander, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Did we prove ourselves? To the other species, I mean." Hana looked out at the stars. "We proved that different approaches to problems can be equally valid. We proved that newer species can contribute to the Federation in unexpected ways. We proved that primitive technology, used intelligently, can achieve remarkable results." She turned to face him. "But most importantly, we proved something to ourselves. We proved that humans belong out here, among the stars, despite our limitations. We may not have the most advanced technology or the longest history, but we have something just as valuable." "What's that, Commander?" "We know how to survive." Commander Hana stood on the observation deck of the Galactic Council space station and watched as another sleek alien warship glided past. The vessel belonged to the Quarian Empire, and it seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly light. Its hull was made from some exotic crystalline material that the aliens claimed could phase through solid matter. The ship moved without any visible engines, propelled by forces that human scientists were still trying to understand. Beside her, Captain Doyen let out a quiet sigh. He was the chief engineering officer of their own vessel, the KSS Indomitable, and Hana knew what he was thinking. Their ship looked nothing like the technological marvels floating around them. The annual military technology exposition had drawn vessels from 47 different species. Each one seemed more impossible than the last. There were ships that bent space around themselves, vessels that existed partially in other dimensions, and fighters that could apparently move faster than light without using traditional jump drives. And then there was the Indomitable. Their supercarrier sat in its designated dock like a metal brick among butterflies. It was massive, certainly the largest vessel at the exposition, but it lacked the elegant curves and impossible geometries of the alien ships. The Indomitable was all right angles and heavy plating. Its hull was made of reinforced titanium alloys. It moved using chemical thrusters and fusion drives. It fired projectiles made of metal. Lieutenant Minji approached them, her young face troubled. "Commander, the presentation hall is ready. Ambassador Kyung wants us there in 10 minutes. Hana nodded and smoothed down her uniform. She had known this moment would come. Humanity had been part of the Galactic Federation for only 3 years. This exposition was their chance to show what Earth could contribute to the great alliance of species. The presentation hall was enormous, capable of holding thousands of beings. Hana saw creatures of every imaginable shape as they made their way to the human section. There were towering insectoids, floating gas clouds that somehow possessed intelligence, and beings that looked like living crystals. Ambassador Kyung was already at the podium when they arrived. He was a veteran diplomat, one of the few humans who had successfully navigated the complex politics of galactic society. He looked calm, but Hana noticed how tightly he gripped his datapad. The presentations began. One by one, species showed off their military capabilities. The Quarians demonstrated their phasing technology, showing how their ships could pass through enemy fire. The Luminary Collective, Beings made of living light displayed vessels that could repair themselves instantly using quantum entanglement. The Vex showed fighters that existed in multiple timelines simultaneously. Then it was humanity's turn. Ambassador Kyung activated the holographic display. The Indomitable appeared above the stage in full detail. The KSS Indomitable represents humanity's approach to space combat, he began. It is powered by fusion reactors, a reliable and proven technology. It carries kinetic weapons, electromagnetic railguns, and missile systems. The hull is composed of layered armor designed to absorb and distribute impact. A sound rippled through the audience. It took Hana a moment to recognize it as laughter. Fleet Admiral Velthar of the Korean Empire rose from his seat. He was tall even for his species, with skin that shifted colors like oil on water. Forgive me, Ambassador, but did you say fusion reactors? As in controlled nuclear reactions? The same technology most species abandoned 5,000 years ago? Kyung's jaw tightened. Fusion power is extremely efficient and reliable. And kinetic weapons? Velthar continued, his voice dripping with amusement. You throw metal at your enemies? How delightfully primitive. More laughter erupted. Hana felt heat rising in her cheeks. A delegate from the Vex Collective spoke up, their mechanical voice echoing through the hall. What is the purpose of such heavy armor? Surely any modern weapon would simply phase through it or disintegrate it at the molecular level. Doyun stepped forward before Kyung could respond. The armor is designed in layers. Each layer can be sealed off independently. If one section is breached, the ship remains functional. Remains functional? Velthar laughed again. My dear humans, modern combat doesn't work that way. Battles are decided in microseconds. Ships either survive the initial exchange or they don't. There is no remaining functional after being hit. A crystalline being near the front spoke in a voice like wind chimes. Hana recognized Thex, an observer from the Luminary Collective. The human vessel is certainly unique in its design philosophy. All those redundant systems must be very heavy. They are, Doyen admitted. The Indomitable mass is approximately 4 million tons. The hall erupted in shocked murmurs. Most of the alien warships massed only a few thousand tons at most, their exotic materials and technologies allowing them to achieve incredible capability with minimal mass. Velthar stood again, and this time his expression was serious. Ambassador Kyung, I mean no offense to your species. You are new to galactic society, and you bring many valuable qualities. But military technology is clearly not your strength. That vessel of yours is a relic. It would be destroyed in seconds against any modern fleet. Kyung's voice was tight when he responded. Perhaps we have different approaches to warfare. Perhaps, Velthar agreed. Or perhaps you simply don't understand modern warfare. Tell me, would you be willing to prove your vessel's worth? The war games at the contested belt are scheduled for 3 weeks from now. I would be honored to test my battle group against your supercarrier. No live ammunition, of course. Just simulated combat. We can see if your primitive approach has any merit. The challenge hung in the air. Hana knew what refusing would mean. Humanity's reputation in the Federation was already fragile. If they backed down now, they would be dismissed as a minor species. Not worth serious consideration. Ambassador Kyung looked at Hana. She gave him a small nod. We accept your challenge. Fleet Admiral, Kyung said clearly. Velthar smiled, showing too many teeth. Excellent. I look forward to the demonstration. Perhaps afterward, we can discuss more suitable technologies for your species. The Korean Empire is always willing to help primitive civilizations advance. The presentation ended shortly after. As they left the hall, Hana could feel eyes on them. Some held pity. Others showed amusement. A few seemed curious about what would happen at the war games. Only Thex, the crystalline observer, watched them with what might have been interest. As Hana passed, the being spoke quietly. Your ship has many backup systems. Why? Hana stopped and looked at the alien. Because things break in combat. We plan for that? Interesting, Thex chimed. Most species plan to not be hit at all. As they walked back to the Indomitable, Minji spoke quietly. They think we're a joke. Let them, Doyen replied. We have 3 weeks to prepare. That's more than enough time. Hana looked at her ship through the viewport. It wasn't beautiful like the alien vessels. It didn't shimmer or phase or exist in multiple dimensions. But it was theirs, built on human principles, designed by people who understood that survival wasn't about perfection. It was about still being there when everything went wrong. The journey back to Mars took 6 days through conventional jump routes. Commander Hana spent most of that time in meetings with her senior staff. The humiliation at the exposition still stung, but she pushed those feelings aside. There was work to do. Chief Engineer Jiwan joined them on the third day. He had been waiting at the Mars orbital shipyards, the place where the Indomitable had been built 5 years ago. Jiwan was old by military standards, nearly 60, with gray hair and hands scarred from decades of work. He had helped design every major human warship currently in service. So Velthar called us primitive, Jiwan said when he heard the full story. He didn't sound upset. If anything, he seemed amused. What did you expect? We are primitive by their standards, Captain Doyun frowned. That doesn't bother you? Why should it? Jiwan pulled up a holographic display of the Indomitable's design. Look at this ship. Really look at it. We built it using technologies that some of these species abandoned when humans were still living in caves. Fusion reactors, chemical propellants, metal armor, kinetic weapons. By galactic standards, we might as well be throwing rocks. Lieutenant Minji looked confused. Then why did we build it this way? Couldn't we have asked for technology transfers from the Federation? Jiwan smiled. We did ask. Know what they told us? They said their technologies require materials we can't synthesize, power sources we can't create, and mathematics we don't fully understand. They offered to build ships for us, but we would have been dependent on them for every repair, every upgrade, every replacement part. So we built what we could build ourselves, Hana said. Exactly. Jiwan expanded the schematic. But we didn't just copy old designs. We thought about what would happen in real combat. Not the microsecond exchanges Velthar talked about, but sustained fighting. Extended engagements. Battles that last hours or days. Dr. Samin entered the conference room carrying a thick datapad. She was a physicist who had spent years studying alien technologies and comparing them to human approaches. I've been running simulations based on what we saw at the exposition. The Quarian ships are incredible for the first 30 minutes of combat. Their energy shields can deflect almost anything. Their plasma weapons can cut through most materials. Their phasing technology makes them nearly untouchable. But, Doyen prompted, their reactors run on exotic matter that breaks down under sustained use. Their shields require constant power. Their weapons overheat if fired continuously. Everything about their design assumes the battle will be decided quickly. Someone brought up her calculations. After 2 hours of continuous combat, their effectiveness drops by 40%. After 4 hours by 70%. After 6 hours, most of their systems would be offline. Hana leaned forward. And the Indomitable? Our fusion reactors can run continuously for months. Our railguns have replaceable barrels. Our missiles are stored in redundant magazines throughout the ship. Our armor doesn't require power to function, Soman smiled. After 6 hours of combat, we would be operating at maybe 85% effectiveness. And that's assuming we took heavy damage. Jiwan pulled up another schematic. Every critical system on this ship has backups. The main reactor fails? We have 2 secondary reactors. Those fail. We have emergency power cells that can run life support and weapons for another 12 hours. The main computer gets destroyed. We have 3 independent backup systems. Those get destroyed. Every station can operate manually. Ensign Tajan, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. I trained on manual targeting. Most of the crew thought it was a waste of time. The computer can target faster and more accurately. Until the computer is destroyed, Minji said, understanding dawning on her face. Exactly, Jiwan said. Alien ships don't train for manual operation because their computers are supposed to be unhackable and indestructible. When those systems fail, the whole ship becomes useless. Doyen walked around the holographic display. So our primitive technology is actually an advantage in extended combat. It's more than that, Hana said slowly, pieces clicking together in her mind. It's a completely different philosophy. They build ships that are perfect until something goes wrong. We build ships expecting things to go wrong. Salman nodded enthusiastically. Humans evolved on a world that was actively trying to kill us. Earthquakes, hurricanes, droughts, ice ages, predators, diseases. We learned that survival doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from adapting when things go wrong. Over the next week, the Indomitable underwent intensive preparations. Not modifications or upgrades, but training and testing. The crew ran through thousands of failure scenarios. Main power offline? The engineering teams practiced rerouting systems through backup lines. Computer targeting destroyed. Weapons crews drilled on manual firing solutions. Hull breach in Section 7. Damage control teams rehearsed sealing procedures until they could do it blindfolded. Hana watched Ensign Taejin lead a damage control drill. The young man and his team were responding to a simulated fire in the engine room, while also dealing with a hull breach and loss of gravity. They moved with practiced efficiency, their actions smooth despite the chaos. "They're good," Ji-won said, appearing beside her. "They need to be better," Hana replied. "Velthar is bringing a full battle group. 6 ships against our 1. Numbers don't matter as much as endurance," Ji-won said. "His ships are designed for shock and awe. Overwhelming force applied quickly. But war games last 3 days. 72 hours of continuous engagement. His vessels weren't built for that." Ambassador Kyung visited the ship a week before the war games. He found Hana in the Combat Information Center, reviewing tactical plans with Doyen. "I've received intelligence from our contacts in the Federation," Kyung said quietly. "Velthar isn't just trying to win the war games. He wants to humiliate us so badly that the Federation questions whether humanity deserves membership." "Why?" Minji asked. "What did we do to him?" "Nothing. But the Korean Empire has significant political influence. They don't want competition from newcomers. If they can paint us as technologically backward and militarily incompetent, it strengthens their position." Hana felt anger burning in her chest, but she kept her voice level. "Then we'll have to prove them wrong. Can we?" Kyung asked bluntly. "I saw those ships at the exposition. They're incredible. They're brittle," Doyen said. "Impressive, but brittle. One good hit and their exotic systems cascade into failure. The Indomitable is built to take hits and keep fighting." The day before departure, Hana gathered the entire crew in the main hangar. Nearly 800 people stood before her, representing dozens of different specialties: engineers, pilots, gunners, medics, cooks, administrators. All of them were necessary to keep the massive ship running. "You all know what people are saying about us," Hana began. "They call us primitive. They laugh at our technology. They think we're going to be destroyed in the first hour of the war games." She paused, looking at the faces before her. "They're wrong. Not because we have better technology. We don't. Not because we're smarter or faster or stronger. We're not. They're wrong because they don't understand what it means to be human. We come from a world that never gave us anything easily. We had to fight for every advantage. We learned to adapt, to improvise, to keep going when everything went wrong. That's in our DNA. That's in every system of this ship. The Indomitable isn't elegant. It isn't beautiful. It won't phase through matter or exist in multiple dimensions. But it will still be fighting when their perfect ships are floating dead in space. Because that's what humans do. We survive, we endure. We're still there when everyone else has given up." The crew was silent for a moment, then someone began to clap. Others joined in until the hangar echoed with applause. As they dispersed to their stations, Ji-won approached Hana. "Good speech. Do you believe it?" "Every word," Hana said. "We're going to show them what primitive really means.